In the preliminary investigation report of Air India AI-171, some revelations have come out. These findings have created a new mystery in the world of aviation. In the seconds before the crash, who moved both engines' fuel switches from run to cut-off position? When the fuel was cut off, both engines started shutting down. One pilot asked why the fuel cut-off was done. The other pilot said, "I did not do it." At such a critical time of takeoff, what was the reason for turning off the fuel switches of both engines? Was there some fault in the switches? Did the pilot do this intentionally, or was it a malfunction? In other similar accidents in history, where the pilot intentionally committed suicide, what similarities are there with AI-171? Today, we will try to understand this issue. Once again, welcome to the video. On the morning of the 2nd of June 2025, it was a normal day at Ahmedabad International Airport. There was slight heat in the air and the sky was completely clear. Some aircraft were boarding passengers at the terminal, while some were in the taxi phase. On the runway, every 5 minutes, an aircraft was either landing or taking off. In this crowd, an Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner was also standing. Its tail number was VT-B and flight number was AI-171. This aircraft had arrived in Ahmedabad from Delhi 2 hours earlier. Now, it was ready to go from Ahmedabad to London. No one knew that in a few moments this Dreamliner was going to leave headlines around the world, and a mystery in the world of aviation. In the cockpit, 56-year-old Captain Sumat Sabharwal was present. His total flying experience was 15,600 hours, out of which 8,200 hours he had flown on this Boeing 787. The co-pilot, also called the first officer, was 32-year-old Clive Kunda. His total experience was 3,400 hours, and he had flown the Boeing 787 for 1,128 hours. The report stated that both pilots had passed the breath analyzer test about 1.5 hours before the flight, and were found completely fit for the flight. The same aircraft, VT-B, had arrived in Ahmedabad operating flight AI-423 from Delhi. In the previous flight, a small technical issue had occurred, which the aircraft maintenance engineer cleared by troubleshooting. Now, this aircraft, he was fully ready for his next flight. There were total 230 passengers in flight AI-171. In the investigation report, it has been told that 54,200 kilograms of fuel was filled in the aircraft. Its takeoff weight was 213,400 kilograms, which is completely normal for Boeing 787. No signs of any dangerous goods were found in the aircraft either. Everything was normal. After boarding, according to the recording of the air traffic control tower, at 1:13 the aircraft requested pushback and start-up permission from the terminal. At 1:33 p.m. and 45 seconds, ATC gave instructions to line up on runway 23. At that time, the wind speed was 6 knots, that is approximately 11 kilometers per hour. The weather was completely clear, and visibility was recorded 6,000 meters, meaning everything was perfectly right for a normal takeoff. After getting takeoff permission, at 1:37 p.m. and 37 seconds, the pilot increased the speed by moving the thrust lever up. Keep in mind that in this flight, the takeoff was being done by co-pilot Clive Kunda, whereas Captain Sumit's role was only to monitor. According to enhanced airborne flight recorder data, the aircraft achieved V1 speed at 1:38 p.m. and 33 seconds. This is a speed of 153 knots, or 283 kilometers per hour, after which it is not possible to stop the takeoff. After 2 seconds, VR speed was also achieved, which is 155 knots, and then, at 1:38 p.m. and 39 seconds, the aircraft took off. Till now, whatever happened, everything was normal. Even in the CCTV footage, everything looked fine till liftoff. But what happened after this changed everything. About 3 seconds later, the aircraft also achieved a speed of 180 knots. This means that even 3 seconds after takeoff, the engine was producing thrust. From the enhanced aircraft flight recorder, it was found that immediately after this, the fuel cutoff switches of engine 1 and engine 2 changed from run position to cutoff position one after another, with a gap of only 1 second. Now, the fuel supply of the engines was cut, and their N1 and N2 values started falling rapidly. That means the engine thrust started decreasing rapidly. In the cockpit voice recorder, in which all cockpit sounds are recorded, it was heard that at exactly the same time, one pilot says, "Why did you cut the fuel switch?" And the other said that "I did not do it." The investigation team, till now, it was not known which pilot asked the question and which one gave the answer. In the CCTV footage, immediately after liftoff, the ram air turbine was seen deploying, also called RAT in short. It is an emergency power source, automatically deploying when the engine shuts down. This power helps run the aircraft's main electrical system. The deployment of the RAT is an indication that something unusual definitely happened in the aircraft. In footage, the aircraft was rapidly losing altitude, confirmed by EFR data. N2 values of both engines were below minimum idle speed. At 1:39 p.m. and 5 seconds, a Mayday distress signal was recorded in ATC. When asked for the call sign, no response was received. ATC saw the aircraft crash outside the airport boundary. Emergency response was immediately activated. The aircraft, 1,600 meters from runway 23, first struck the chimney of an Army Medical Corps building. It then hit the BJ Medical College hostel. The entire debris spread over an area 1,000 feet long and 400 feet wide from the first impact point. In this accident, 12 crew members and 229 passengers lost their lives, while 19 people on the ground also became victims. Only one passenger, by chance sitting near the emergency exit, somehow managed to survive. In this 15-page preliminary investigation report, everything is written in detail. For example, after the crash, the flap handle assembly was recovered from the debris, which was in the 5-flap position. This is a normal takeoff flap setting, and this was also confirmed by the EFR data. The landing gear lever was found in the down position, and the thrust lever, although heavily burned, was in the forward position until the crash. Most importantly, the fuel control switches were found in the run position. That means, before the crash, the pilots had turned the fuel switches on. These fuel switches are generally designed so that only a human can turn them off or on. A locking mechanism is provided on the left and right of both switches, which prevents accidental turning on or off. Whenever a pilot has to open the engine fuel, both hands of the pilot have to be used. With one hand, the lock is pushed. With the other, the switch is pulled and moved up or down. This is the most surprising thing, because with one hand, no one can turn the fuel switch on or off, even if they wanted to. If the pilot didn't turn off the switches, as heard in the cockpit voice recorder, then who did? And if this happened by mistake, how did both switches turn off together by mistake? The investigation found both fuel switches turned off with a 1-second gap, suggesting human intervention. Later, these two switches were turned on again, but by then, it was too late. For engine 1, the fuel cutoff to supply restart gap was 10 seconds. For engine 2, it was 14 seconds. Both engines had just started producing thrust again, but at that same time, the crash happened. The biggest mystery, Flight AI-171, was absolutely perfect until takeoff. From engine to fuel, everything was normal. Fuel samples from the tanker showed no problems. If everything was perfect, why were the fuel switches deliberately turned off? Or was their locking mechanism faulty? The report mentions the FAA issued a special airworthiness information bulletin in 2018. It warned about the possibility of the fuel control switch locking feature coming out. This bulletin, also called SAIB, was issued on complaints from Boeing 737 operators. This means some Boeing 737 aircraft had reported this issue earlier. The design of the fuel control switch, including its locking feature, is the same across different Boeing models. It includes part number 4, TL8373D, and the same part was installed in aircraft VTA-NB. This was the aircraft used in Air India flight AI-171. The FAA had warned about this 7 years ago. It was not known which pilot asked the question and who gave the answer. In the CCTV footage, immediately after liftoff, the ram air turbine was seen deploying, also called RAT. It's an emergency power source, automatically deploying when engines shut down, powering the aircraft's main electrical system. The RAT's deployment signals something unusual definitely happened within the aircraft. Footage also showed the aircraft rapidly losing altitude. EFR data confirmed this, as N2 values for both engines dropped below minimum idle speed. At 1:39 p.m. and 5 seconds, a Mayday distress signal was recorded in ATC. When ATC asked for the call sign, no reply was received. ATC saw the aircraft crash outside the airport boundary. Emergency response was immediately activated. 1,600 meters from runway 23, the aircraft hit an Army Medical Corps chimney, then crashed into a college hostel. Debris spread over 1,000 feet long and 400 feet wide from the first impact point. 12 crew, 229 passengers, and 19 ground victims lost their lives in this accident. Only one passenger, seated near an emergency exit, somehow managed to survive. This 15-page preliminary investigation report details everything. The flap handle assembly, recovered from debris, was at 5 normal takeoff setting, confirmed by EFR data. Landing gear lever was down. Thrust lever, though burnt, was forward until crash. Most importantly, fuel control switches were found in the run position. This means pilots had turned fuel switches on before the crash. These switches are designed so only a human can turn them off or on. A locking mechanism prevents accidental activation or deactivation. Whenever a pilot opens engine fuel, both hands must be used. It would rise back up again. If this had been done intentionally, then what was the point of keeping the elevators in the takeoff position? What do you think about this? Do not forget to tell me in the comment section. I hope you all will properly like and share this video. See you in the next video.